All right, we're going to bring in Gary Dierenfeld, social worker. You can find out more at yoursocialworker.com. A couple of things we want to talk about today with Gary. Number one, some Hamilton parents are concerned that older kids are watching younger kids during lunch break periods with minimal adult supervision. Is this a legitimate concern given what can be overlooked, whether it be bullying or a medical emergency? Another thing I want to touch on is touching in hockey. Girls League in Toronto, I got a girl that plays, but at this Girls League in Toronto, parents, coaches aren't allowed to touch the players at all. So if there's a celebratory goal or what have you, there's no touching. They say you can do a fist pump or maybe a high five, but that's it. You can't, touch their shoulder pads. You can't, bang them on the head as they come in off the bench, which I think is just absolutely wacky because I've been doing it for my kids for 4 or 5 years now. And, when the kids are coming off the ice, they're looking right in your eyes for you to give them some sort of recognition, whether it's a tap on the head and say good shift or what have you. Most of the time it's to grab them by the scruff of the neck because they're falling down trying to get into the bench. But I guess I should just let them drop and hit the ice. Because if I grab them, I might grab them on their shoulder pads or something, and I'm just better to leave them and let them crash to the ground. I can't touch you. I can't pick you up. It's amazing. It's amazing what we have come to. To talk about all of this, Gary Dierenfeld is with us on the line now. Good afternoon, Gary. How are you today?
Scott, great to be with you. I'm doing well, thanks.
Thanks for taking the time. Let's start with the supervision in the lunchrooms. To some parents, it might be a common sense approach. To others, it borders on dangerous. What are your thoughts here?
I got news for you. I listened to your intro between that and the no-touch policy with the Girls Hockey League. For me, it's all the same answer. It's these, bubble-wrapped kids where we have to be so overprotective these days. I think it's sad. I think it's a shame.
And the sad part is, this is not about what's best for the kids. This is about the organization avoiding legal trouble.
Yeah, totally. So if I had a child in grades 5, 6, 7, and 8, I would love the opportunity for that child of mine to be able to provide some lunchtime supervision, gain some responsibility, help the younger kids out. That's what we want in the world. Yeah. We want people to volunteer. We want them to participate in the care of others. It teaches them humanity. It teaches them that there's a world outside of their own needs and wants. And so I quite frankly see that as a wonderful thing. I read the article in The Spectator. I'm not left with the impression by that article anyways that these kids are so unsupervised in watching the younger kids that they're truly at risk of harm. Rather, parents or teachers' aides, they're going up and down the hallways and poking their noses in every now and again. I've never met a youngster who couldn't scream for help. Half these kids have cell phones already now.
That's a good point.
What the hell's the problem?
That's a good point. I guess the one thing where I might be concerned is what if there is a medical emergency like an allergy or even a choking scenario where, those split seconds count?
I hate to say this, but welcome to life, parents.
Yeah.
There's going to be these issues. I'm not wishing harm to anyone, but we have to have some balance and say at the end of the day, the truth is we can't reduce all risk. It's not practical. It's not realistic. And so rather than reducing or seeking to eliminate risk, it's how do we help people to cope? How do we provide them skills for managing issues should they arise? And, you have a kid who's being the lunchtime supervisor. I don't know, if you tell them, hey, if you have a problem, shout. And, odds are somebody's going to come running within seconds.
Should there be more stringent guidelines or more universal guidelines for all so everybody feels comfortable about this? Because I guess every situation can be different.
You can have some guidelines that say, here's how we're doing things, here's how we'll handle situations. But at the end of the day, parents, we have to recognize that sometimes bad things happen to good people, no matter what precautions we take. And sometimes, on the whole, the precautions we take in the long run can produce more harm. Because we now have kids, or we will have kids, who don't think about helping others because they've never had the opportunity to do so.
Or perhaps they're so worried they're going to do more harm than good, they just sit there with their hands in the air and don't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm all for, let's involve our kids in the care of their classmates and the younger kids in the school. Let's equip them with the tools, the knowledge, the wherewithal to know what to do in case of an emergency. It doesn't take a hoo-ha 1, 2, 4-hour course. Sometimes it's just a little bit of information. If this happens, shout. From my perspective, that's more common sense. School boards, my goodness, there will be a lawsuit one day about this.
Well, I was about to say, do you think this is a legal issue? Do you think it's a union issue? Or do you think it's a safety concern?
I think it's all of the above, but on steroids and juiced by some hysteria. Gee whiz, I hope I'm not totally offending those folks who read that article and think, oh my God, what a problem. It's just that we got to dial it back. I mean, your kid's at greater risk crossing the street, for goodness sakes, getting to school than they are at school.
And talk a little bit about the responsibility of giving a student this job. And I know my grade 7 daughter does this, and now every time she walks by the kindergarten pen, they're all screaming her name because they love her.
That's right.
And it's just a great way to connect with the school, the community, and just give back.
And I totally agree with you. It's also, these are the strategies through which we build leadership skills in our youth, build a sense that taking on responsibility is a good thing, not something to be shunned and avoided because all you're going to do is weigh the risks against any benefit. It provides the students a sense of pride. It provides the little ones a sense of safety, quite frankly, because they're going to form relationships with their classroom monitor.
And you know what? You've hit the nail on the head here, Gary, because you know what it does? Now when those kids are out on the playground, they all associate with each other and they know each other. It's not like the grade 7s are over here, the grade 2s are there. They are interacting with each other and they know everyone in the school.
And from my perspective, that is a great remedy or protective strategy with respect to bullying.
Yeah.
Because we have a safe person who we can go to with whom we have a pre-existing relationship, and because that older youth has the relationship with the younger, they're going to just more naturally have an eye towards them and be more willing to step in and intervene should a problem arise.
Absolutely. I don't see the downsides here at all. So, what happens if, at the end of the day, we take this away, we don't let any of the children do this, we make sure that they all have adult supervision? What's to be gained by that?
Well, I don't think there's too much to be gained by that. I think it's an opportunity lost. Maybe some school boards will feel like they've, again, taken some degree of risk out of the management of their institutions. But Scott, I just don't see I don't get it. I don't see the...
You know, at the end of the day, though, Gary, this and the thing in regard to the touching of the hockey players, this was all complaint-driven. This started by somebody complaining, and now we have a reaction.
Right.
So how do you balance that?
Overreaction.
And how do you balance that, especially if you're an organization or a school?
I know. Where are the calm heads that are supposed to prevail? You look at a kid who comes off that ice ecstatic for their performance. And part of how a child wants to share that with you is through a hug.
Yeah.
And you may have a rule that the parent isn't allowed to touch the kid. Tell the kid who spontaneously embraces the parent right? Coming off the ice, not to do that.
You know, I was talking to a teacher not too long ago, and I don't want to reveal any names here, but they were saying, you know, a nice teacher, well-liked teacher, middle-aged man, and he's in a part of town where there isn't as much parenting going on as perhaps should be. And they're at a bit of a disadvantage because of that. They love this guy and are always going up to hug him.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know what to do, because you can tell they just want a hug.
Yeah.
But yet it's like he knows he's not supposed to go there and that he can't. But he goes, you know, for some of these kids, it's the only hug they're going to get.
There was a psychologist going back to, I think, the 70s and 80s, Leo Buscaglia. And he would do these huge workshops helping people feel better about themselves, connect with themselves. And his shtick, if you will, is that anyone who attended his workshops, at the end of the workshop, anyone who wanted a hug, he would be available and give that person a hug. And, you know, the stories unfold that he would be there for hours on end after the workshop in these large stadiums, with literally everyone lined up to give him a hug on their way out. What does that say about our world where we have to line up to get a hug?
It's like the cuddling. It's like those cuddling businesses that are opening up, where you can go and cuddle with somebody for an hour that you don't even know.
I know.
What is that saying?
I know. So I hope that parents dial that back, more than a fist bump, more than a pat on the head. That there's nothing sexually offending about a hug when it's given spontaneously between the child and the coach as the kid's coming off and they're excited about their accomplishment. We want, this is a reasonable human way to celebrate a child's accomplishment.
And so it's come to the point where I guess, and again, let's look at the situation with the hockey. And apparently what happened with this scenario was a parent complained that one of the parents that was behind the bench gave just too much of a hug to their kid. And then the memo came out that said, that's it. No hugging, no. So again, at the end of the day, what's to be accomplished by that? A, we won't get any more complaints. Or are we admitting that if we touch somebody, it leads to sexual misconduct?
Right. So welcome to the crazy world we live in. Hopefully, like I say, calmer heads will prevail. We'll dial that back. And on the basis of a single complaint, not be so driven to change such far-reaching policies. Let's truly think about all of our kids. Now, listen. There's going to be the odd kid out there who's, in a sense, more shy, doesn't want to be touched. As coaches, teachers, parents, neighbors, friends, we recognize those kids typically. And if the touch, the hug, the high five was offensive, rather than laying this huge complaint, the parent of that child can take the coach aside and say, hey, you may not realize this, but that my child happens to be uncomfortable with that. Just wanted to give you the heads up so that it isn't an issue.
Well, it's interesting because even in this article it said, well, this all was stemmed from or was inspired by the Respect in Sport program, which all parents now, with my boys' league, one of the parents has to take it. If I'm behind the bench, then you got to take a leadership course as well. So I've taken these Respect in Sport courses, and not ever does it say once you can't congratulate the kid by giving him a bump on the shoulder pad or her a bump on the shoulder pad or a tap on the head. So it's as if they're using these measures and taking them one step farther, as if because we're saying, hey, you know what, some parents have gotten out of hand and really we should all understand and take a course why we're really here, it's all of a sudden gone to no touching. It's well, we've done this, so now we have to do that.
Well, Scott, I've always said to you, I love you, and I will tell you the next time I see you personally, I will give you a hug.
No way, man. Keep your hands off me, or I'll call the hug cops.
I'm going to give you a hug, and damn it, you're going to like it.
Why do we need touching? Why is it important for us to be touching, even if it is a teacher or a coach?
We're all animals first. We're the human animal. And touching is a means of connecting, of bonding, of feeling important, of feeling of value. And this is all appropriate touching. I'm not talking about abusive behavior or hitting or sexualizing of children. I'm talking of valuing one another and feeling good about one another. And so we give a hug, we give an embrace, and it helps us in terms of that emotional connection and feeling good. This is so being human. That's acceptable. Now, having said that, Scott, I've had to come to appreciate and understand that in some cultures we don't hug, or at least we don't do that publicly.
Yeah.
You know, I remember meeting a Muslim woman who's also a social worker, and so we've had many telephone conversations and emails, you know, collaborating on different things. So when I saw her for the first time at a conference, I just wanted to give her a hug.
Yeah.
And ever so politely, she put up her hand and said, you know, Gary, thank you so much, but as a Muslim woman, we don't hug, you know, men. And she was reasonable. She was appropriate. I looked at her. I said, you know what? Then I'm going to squeeze you with my eyes. Which was
hey, that's a good one.
Frankly. And I did. And when I greet her, because she's such a lovely, warm woman, I do. I squeeze my eyes together, and there's still a lovely connection. There's nothing sexual. There's nothing inappropriately, wrongfully intimate about this. It's just human.
Well, you know, it's like the kiss on the cheek. You know, certain cultures that they want to kiss you on both cheeks. I always get caught because I'm going for one, and then I'm not ready for the second one, and then we bang noses. That's always been very uncomfortable. But you know, it was funny. I had a guest in here a while ago. Actually, one of the candidates for the PC leadership, and when she got up to leave, she shook my hand and then she goes, I'm a hugger, and she just grabbed me and gave me a hug.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's almost like she had to qualify it before she said it because now I guess you just don't want to invade somebody's space like that without giving them a warning.
Right. I'm also a warm, huggy person, and I've sadly had to train myself not to go there, not to jump there so quickly. I certainly won't hug my clients for concern that it might be misconstrued. That's a boundary violation.
Yeah.
And in other circumstances, meeting or greeting new people, and truly wanting to be respectful, I'll say, you know, do you hug?
Yeah.
You know, can I give you a hug? And so we can do this permission-based, and that's okay, too, if you're ever in that quandary as to whether or not it's acceptable with the other person. But I'm going to hug you whether you like it or not.
There you go. So if you happen to be one of those people out there on the street who just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when Gary and I do meet again, and this all starts, just accept our apology ahead of time. But we're very much connected. I wondered how I was going to finish that, but anyway. Gary, as always, you're the purveyor of common sense, and we appreciate that. And thanks very much for the time, as usual.
Thanks, Scott.
Gary Dierenfeld has been with us, social worker, yoursocialworker.com to find out more. And, of course, we've been talking about supervision in the lunchroom at school and patting kids on the head at hockey. We can't do anything anymore. It is 2:27. We're coming back.